Greetings, Nerf Universe. Chris with Gravity Well Nerf Mods here, coming to you to do what I hope is to be the first in a long line of review videos for you, as well as talk about what's been going on here in my forge, and where you can hopefully see me here in the next upcoming weeks. So, first off, I wanted to talk about the new hotness that you can find in 3D printed blasters. I'm sure you've been aware, over the last few years, there's been a great rise in 3D printed blasters now that 3D printing technology has become more accessible to the basic consumer. It started off a few years ago with Project FDL, and I'm pretty sure there was actually some before them, but they're the big name now. I think they're in their third incarnation of their FDL blasters, and they're very cool. I've seen them in action. They're primo if you have a chance to get them. I know Captain Slug's been doing his Caliburn for a while, so that's a premier Springer 3D printed blaster. And so now everybody's been kind of doing their own thing, and as long as you have access to a 3D printer and a CAD program and have a basic understanding of how a blaster is being put out, you can actually come out with a whole bunch of them. I know there's like at least 3 or 4 that are on Thingiverse right now that are very popular. And this is actually the newest thing that has popped up, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I haven't seen very many reviews on them, so I kind of wanted to do mine now that I've got mine printed out and put together. So, without further ado, I present to you the Viper. This is the Viper by Freedom Blasters, or the FR1. This is a flywheel-powered revolver. Yeah, you heard me right. It's flywheel-powered revolver. And it does use the flywheel. It's by, I should say, it's going to be on the Flywheel the World website eventually. Right now it's not, but eventually if you don't have a 3D printer, you will be able to buy these according to the Thingiverse page. Right now, the only place you can find these is the files are on Thingiverse, and you would need to find somebody that can print one out and put this together for you. But the point being is that this uses not only the technology, I mean, it kind of mashes together the best of both worlds. You've got yourself a flywheel, a compact flywheel blaster that is pretty much what I would say on par with a good primary Strife. It does have a limited capacity, but the cool thing is you don't need, well, you do need magazines, I should say. It's just a little weird, because you're probably looking at this going, well, Chris, how do I reload this? Ah! So this is one of the cool things about this. Is for me anyway, one of the cool things was this is reminiscent of the old Schofield revolvers from back in the day, where you would have a break action and you would actually reload it from in here. Well, the cool thing about these is you don't have to buy magazines. Those cylinders are actually part of the files, so you can print out as many as you need, which I thought was kind of cool. Plus, they hold 8 darts. Now, these are also made for Steffens, which is also kind of cool because if you need to buy them, you can, but you can also make them. I know that the Adventure Force darts right now that you can get at Walmart are very popular, and I tried some of them when I first put this together, and they worked very well. So that's always a good thing, too. But yeah, they'll basically reload this once you're done. Basically, you just hit this button right here. This breaks open, you pull one cylinder out, and you put your next cylinder in. Now, obviously, if you need to, you can reload it from the hip and just keep it open like that. There's nothing that says you can't. Matter of fact, if you use this in HVC, you're probably going to have to. But, that being said, this also uses, not only is it using the flywheel technology, it's using the micro flywheel technology. That's why it's able to be so small. And, I mean, this is the profile on this bastard. I mean, this is really nice. And this is, really the size of basically a hefty revolver. I'd say like a 350, 357 Magnum. This really has a nice heft that has a dirty, hairy feel to it. That, it's if you've got big hands like mine, this is really just a perfect blaster for somebody like me. A couple things about it, though. I mean, obviously, you have to print it out yourself, and you have to put it together. It's not very difficult, especially if you know how to do a Strife mod. The wiring is pretty much the same. The only difference is, excuse me, there we go. The only difference is you don't have a rev trigger. That's kind of one of the unique aspects of it is, in my opinion, you don't have a rev trigger. Basically, it just revs every time you pull the trigger, the way you've wired it up, instead of using the nominal open, so that the rev trigger would go off when the switch was open. This is actually on the nominal closed, so that it is excuse me, I think I said that wrong. Either way, the point is that as the switch is in here right now, it is actually closed. The electricity only goes to the flywheels unless it is opened. So, so basically, every time you pull the trigger, it will actually go ahead and it'll unclick the switch, rev the flywheels, you push the dart in, boom, bada bing, you're done. And it will do that every time. You can wire this up on your personal favorite, lipo connector. I use an XT60, and this will fit easily a 2S lipo. I don't know if you'd want to do a 3S, but I know it'll fit at least a 2S lipo in the handle. The only downside to this is, it does use a regular screw on the handle plates. I'm actually probably going to fix mine up so that it actually has maybe a thumb screw or something like that, just because, I don't like futzing with tools when I'm out somewhere else. So like I said, you print this out, you can print out as many cylinders as you need. I did 2 just until I, field tested. I have not been able to get accurate chrono readings on this just yet because I'm still tweaking mine. There's something going on with the cam that my cylinder isn't turning properly, but I'm working on it. It's still kind of a work in progress, but, excuse me, when it did work, it was fantastic. So, just make sure that when you're aware, this is still kind of a work in progress. This was only come out a week ago, so I know a lot of folks are still, tweaking theirs. But that being said, you can do these in any number of colors. I did mine in a marbled PLA, so it's kind of like an off-white with black specks. And then I used a silk purple PLA on the accents of it. I think it looks super high to me. This is just me talking. But that being said, the internals, I've got 2 Fang revamps in here. And let me see if I can get a good picture of the internals there. So it goes, and there's a good picture of the flywheels, those micro flywheels. And as you can see, the crush on those is just massive. I mean, I think I would almost go so far as to say that's probably closer than a 41.5, which is, I think, the smallest I've seen out there for a flywheel cage. So yeah, this has a built-in flywheel cage. The instructions on Thingiverse recommend using honey badgers. Personally, I used the Fang revamps because I went to Out of Darts. He didn't have any honey badgers available, and I didn't feel like going to 2 different websites when I bought all the stuff. So that's just me talking. Again, not a paid plug for Out of Darts or anything like that. I just don't like ordering from 2 different locations. But that being said, this is very nice. The other cool thing about this particular blaster is you don't necessarily need to buy any extra parts. Once you printed this out, all the screws, pins, and springs I've been able to scrounge from old projects. The screws are your standard NERF screw, which you can find out of pretty much any Strife. If you've done any kind of Strife mods, you've probably got extra screws lying around. And it only needs, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 screws. So if you can find an old Strife laying around, you've probably got them. As well as you'll need a couple of screws for the grip plates, or you can glue those on, but again, that's where your battery goes, so you're going to need to at least have one of them off. But that being said, the pins, there's only a couple of pins, one for the brake action, one for the hinge right here, as well as one for the trigger itself. I was actually able to scrounge all of those out of a Strife jam door, which again, if you've done a Strife mod, you've probably got some spare jam doors, so the pin from the jam door there works very well for the brake action. The other pins, I was able to use a 3.5 millimeter, and I do believe that those are, I got those out of an old Sweet Revenge barrel mod that I did. The pin that goes into the cylinder of the Sweet Revenge, if you pull that out or a hammer shot, that will work perfectly. You can just chop that up with like a Dremel or whatever. So basically, all the parts that I was able to needed for this were basically scrounged. And so I was able to keep the cost way down, didn't need to buy a whole lot of new stuff. So, like I said, don't have any chrono readings on it just yet. I'm sorry about that. I'm still kind of tweaking mine, but I wanted to get this out to you, so this review out to you. Personally, if you have a 3D printer, and I would recommend printing one of these out, putting one together. I'll put a link down in the description box to where you can find this on Thingiverse. if you don't have a 3D printer and you're a nerfer, I would highly recommend finding a friend that has a 3D printer and convincing them any way you can to print one of these out for you, because I think these are super cool. If you're big on the revolver style blaster, kind of like the old strong arms or whatever, this is right up your alley. And they even say that this could quite possibly have the FPS for a primary. Not so sure about that. I'm definitely going to try running this once I get all the bugs worked out. I'm definitely going to be running this as a secondary, mainly because you can find a lot of revolver holsters around. I'm already looking at my old Hammershot revolver holster, and I think I'm going to be able to modify it to fit this. So, but that being said, yeah, highly recommend it. It does have a few little quirks here and there, but if you keep an eye on their Thingiverse page, I'm sure that Freedom Revolvers, or I should say Freedom Blasters, will be able to work out the bugs, and they'll keep folks up to date. So there is that. So again, this is the new Freedom Blasters Viper. There's actually already been one barrel mod that somebody did on called the Pit Viper. It's a much more massive barrel. It doesn't really do anything for it, but other than just make it look bigger and a little bit more sci-fi, in my opinion. But I'm sticking with the good old-fashioned, dirty, hairy look, and this is good enough for me for right now. So that is the Viper. Highly recommend it. Very cool. Try to get one if you can. Now, moving on. We're going to talk about what's been going on in the Forge lately. I've been trying to, with the introduction of a 3D printed blaster, or I should say 3D printer in the Forge, I am kind of expanding my inventory. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Expanding my inventory on my Etsy page. So now I'll be doing 3D printed parts for blaster mods. Right now I only have a few up, but as I get more of them, we will be putting those up. So right now, all we do have, first off, we have a barrel extension. This is just a very basic Delta barrel extension. Cool thing about this, though, is there is no internal barrel, so no more extra barrel drag, which is very awesome. It does have the locking lug from your standard NERF blaster, so this will fit on anything that has the locking lug. And again, very nice if you need just, something that will extend your length without actually affecting performance, because as you can see, no more extra barrel, no barrel drag. So you got that. Next, we've got just your standard, extended mag reliefs. This is actually something that's kind of cool too. I do have a couple of foregrips that I've started coming out. This one's actually kind of cool. This is made for NERF rails, and this actually has a built-in flashlight holder. So about a 9mm flashlight would go right in there, fits right onto your lower rail, like so. And again, no need for an extra, flashlight mount or taking up any more rail space. You can just put a little flashlight right there, boom, secure it however you want, and you are good to go. Another one, very cool. This is another foregrip. I think this started off life as a Caliburn foregrip and just turned into a Strife foregrip. This is really kind of cool because this is great for folks that have like big, long arms like mine, and you feel a little cramped when you're trying to grab a hold of your Strife like right here. This gives you a little bit more length without actually having to put an extra barrel on there. So this is kind of cool. I definitely am going to be running this on this particular Strife. I got to print one out though. I've got these in two sizes. This is the smaller size. As you can see, it's kind of made for people with smaller hands. I do have one more I'm working on printing out right now. It's made for slightly larger hands. It does fit, someone that's a little bit more adult sized far better. So those are both on my Etsy page, as well as your standard. We've got extended battery trays for your NERF Strife. This color is no longer available. This was a filament that did not work very well, so this was kind of a prototype, but I can do these now. This is just kind of cool. It's got, a little bit of venting here. You can choose what you're running. You can kind of see it up against my t-shirt there. And then this is a kind of a medium size, so this is good for like a 2S. And if you got a 3S, you can use the beefy, bulky, solid one. Everything is made out of PLA plastic, so this is what we got right now. And again, I'll put my Etsy page link down in the description box. as well as everything else. One last thing wanted to talk about is my Patreon page. The last video, I do believe I talked about it, where I said I was launching a Patreon page. It is officially up, so if you like this content, you want to see more videos like it, as well as the videos that I go to, different events. I take footage, and I'll do, first-person shoot, footage. Consider becoming a Patreon or a patron. Every little bit helps me, and that money goes towards me making more content, making more products for you folks, for my fans, and it can only help you in the end run. So I'll put my link to my Patreon page down in the description box as well, just to go over kind of what would be in it for you if you were to become a patron of mine for Gravity Well Nerf mods. We do have a few different tiers. First off, anytime you become whatever level of patron you become, you will have access to exclusive patron-only content. That could be behind-the-scenes stuff, early access to my YouTube videos, whatever happens to come across the path. One of the things that was on there was I had revealed the Project Viper, my work in progress. So there's that. So that's with any tier that you have. And we've got our basic $1 tier. So not only are you getting access to my Patreon content, I'll be more than happy to do a shout out for you at an upcoming video. Again, that's just a $1, and every dollar helps. This is not saying that that's not enough. I'm just saying that everything helps. Moving up, we've got a $5 tier. So for $5 a month, you would be looking at, on top of everything you'd get for the tier prior to that, and that's how everything works. Every tier prior to that, you would get the benefits of, plus whatever you are donating. So you're going to be entered into, once I get enough patrons, I'll be doing a monthly drawing for a 3D printed Nerf accessory of whatever I happen to have in my shop. And so I would be doing a monthly drawing of that, and that would be patrons only, and that would be on the Patreon page. We've got a $10 a month, which is basically we're looking at everything that we talked about, the drawing, the shout out, as well as you'd be looking at 10% off of your orders from my Etsy shop, which is including the 3D printed parts, the homemade blasters, the customizable blasters I made. I do have a few of those still up, and I'll be continuing to make those. So I've got those. So that's $10 a month, and that'll get you, the 10% off my Etsy page, which is awesome. If you're so inclined, we do have the $25 a month, which is basically everything on top of that, on top of everything that I've already talked about. Basically, I'll contact you, and I will make you a 3D printed Nerf accessory of your choice from whatever I happen to have in stock. Whatever color it is, boom, I'll mail it out to you. And you know what, I couldn't say enough about anybody that wants to do a $25 on a month on that. We do have our $50 a month, which again, everything up to this point, plus every 6 months, once I get enough folks, I will be doing a blaster drawing, basically a custom blaster that I've made. I will be doing a drawing for folks that are that will be sent out to you. And then lastly, I do have a $100 tier, which if someone is actually willing to donate $100 a month, I would be so blown away. But if you are able to do that, thank you so much. On top of everything else, I would contact you and we would talk about making a customized 3D blaster of your choosing. So there is that. So those are all the tiers on the Patreon page. I'll be putting the link to my Patreon page down in the comments. So if you like this content and you like further content to get better from me, consider becoming one of my patrons. Really appreciate it. Upcoming events, pretty simple. We've got this weekend, I'll be up, hoping to be anyway, up in Athens, Ohio. They've got their summer invitational, as well as in a few weeks, Athens will be doing what they're calling Stop Fight, which is basically it's the same weekend as End War. They're not trying to compete against End War, but since End War has gone to Georgia this year, not everyone is able to make it. If you are able to make it to End War, I highly recommend going. I was at the last two NWARs, totally blown away by them. They were awesome. I just can't make the travel to Georgia this year. And there's a lot of folks that can't. So this year, the folks in Athens have decided, you know what, we're going to do something in kind of the same time frame as that. They're calling it Stop Fight. And it's just for really, you know, if you can't make it to NWAR, I highly recommend going to Athens, Ohio. That'll be the weekend, the same weekend as NWAR, and that also looks to be a good time. So, that being said, I do believe that is everything we've gone over. Again, I want to thank you for watching. If you like the content, please like, favorite, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get the notifications every time I do one of these videos. I can't thank you enough for watching. Again, please consider being a patron, and stay nerfy, my friends.